Hi, my name is Emily and welcome to Sweet Cute Patterns. In today's video I wanted to share a brand new hook that I got in the mail. So this is going to be kind of a review of this hook as well as hopefully some educational information about hooks in general. But yeah, this is a brand new hook I got from Making Do Crew, and just a little preview, I am loving this hook. So let's go ahead and jump into the video and I'll explain different hook heads, different size of hooks, and all of the things. So let's go ahead and jump into the video. Test each of these three hooks, and I will show you the pros and cons of each one, and I'll show you my favorites. So this is obviously my brand new hook. This is a furls hook that I thought would be super similar to this brand new hook, but I'll tell you the differences that I noticed. And then this is the clover hooks that I have used for probably over 800 projects, and I've used for a very long time. So we'll compare each of those and I'll tell you my thoughts about this brand new hook. Before we though get started, I wanted to show you two different hook heads and the difference between these. So this is the, I'm going to just set these aside so I have a clear work area surface. There we go. So these are the two different hooks. So this is the Susan Bates hook, and it is a little bit of a different style, and then this one's the boy hook. And as you can see, they're very different hook head shapes. So with the Susan Bates, it does not come, it doesn't taper in, it just goes straight up to the hook head. With the boy hook, you can see it tapers in quite significantly to the hook head. So that's one of the major differences with Susan Bates and boy. Then one of the other differences is you can see this hook head, the boy hook, kind of on the back side tapers in towards the hook head as well, where with the Susan Bates it does not at all. So that's another difference. Another difference is obviously the length. This might have just been a totally random, but this one's a 5 and this one's a 6 millimeter, and the boy is definitely longer. And the other couple differences is the hook length. So I like to have a decent amount of room to work with my yarn, and so this is a little bit on the small side. I prefer the length of the boy hook from where the thumb rest begins to the tip of the head. It's a little bit more of a reasonable length in my opinion compared to this, which you can see is a lot shorter. So that is another difference. And then the last difference is the hook head shape. So the actual shape of the hook head. And as you can see, this one has a lot bigger of a hook head than the Susan Bates. So if we do a comparison, the Susan Bates, the shaft comes in a lot more. And with this one, it kind of comes a little bit more rounded, and it just has a bigger hook head area. So when I first started crocheting, I definitely leaned toward the boy hooks. I just enjoy them more. I like how it tapers in, and when it tapers in, I feel like it's a lot easier for the yarn to grab onto the hook head and not just to slide off. So whenever I crochet with the boy hooks, my yarn just tends to slide totally off a lot more easily. So that is kind of the difference between these two hooks. And so now let's go ahead and I'm going to show you kind of from this foundation the differences in the hook head shape with these three hooks. So we're going to set aside the Susan Bates and boy hooks, and with the Clover Moore hook you can see it's a little bit of it's mostly the boy hook head, and I would say it maybe has a little bit of the Susan Bates, just in the way that this hook head comes in a lot more. It tapers in a lot more sideways on the sides towards the hook head, the boy one, and the Clover doesn't taper in quite as much. So you can see that it tapers in quite a bit less, but still some. So I've loved the Clover hooks for the last probably 5 years or so, and that is that hook. Then with the furls hooks, this one is a lot more, it's almost exclusively the Susan Bates style. So you can see here's the Susan Bates. They both have the same taper from the front that tapers towards the hook head. They both don't have any taper almost at all on the side. This one has just a teeny bit, you can see, but not much. And the hook head shapes are very similar. This one has a little bit more of a bigger hole compared to this one. This one's very narrow, but very similar. So I would consider this one much more of a Susan Bates style hook. And I personally prefer the more boy shaped hooks. So I never really enjoyed working with the frills hook for a multitude of reasons. That being one of the main reasons. The other reason is I don't love that there's no hand grip. I was always frustrated by where to put my thumb. Even though I know like roughly this is where to put it, it just didn't feel comfortable to not have a flat spot. The other reason is the hook shaft part is a little too long for my hand, so I can't reach up to like the top or close to the top. And I don't even realize it, but when I'm crocheting, I do love to be able to bring my finger up and kind of work with it as I'm crocheting. And then I just prefer more of a boy style hook head. So those are the main reasons I never really enjoyed working with the Frills Odyssey. And I also got the Frills Streamline, I believe it was called Cookies and Cream hook. And I just can't find that right now. But again, same things that I didn't love about the hook. So I put these hooks aside and just used Clover Moore hooks. And then recently, like last week, I got this hook. And when I first opened it up, I thought this is going to be a lot like the Frills hook, so I probably won't love it. But I'm going to show you a little bit of the differences between the Frills hook, and then we'll test them. So, first off, this hook has a flat spot for the thumb, and I absolutely love that. When I have a flat spot, it just gives my thumb kind of a place to rest and then be able to move. So I love, love, love that. Then with the hook head, it is very similar to the boy or Frills hooks. But one thing that is a little bit different than the Frills hook is that you can see it has a much more pointy tip, and I do love having a little bit of a pointy tip. It doesn't have to be super pointy, but if it's a little bit pointy, it helps to just be able to insert your hook into that area. Instead of the round, it's a lot harder to just insert it, so it's just more frustrating. So I really love that it was nice and pointy without being like super sharp, and so I loved that. And then I also love how light it is. The Frills Odyssey is pretty heavy, and I just prefer light hooks, so that is another reason. Okay, now let's take each of these 3 hooks and we'll crochet with each of them, and then I'll show you kind of what I mean by hook heads as I crochet. So I'm just going to use some little bit of scrap yarn that I have. I'm just going to make a slip knot, and then I'm going to first use my Clover Moore hook, and then we will use the other hooks next. So I'm going to make just a chain, and as you can see, my thumb rests right there, and it's just very comfortable to crochet with, and my finger can slide really nicely. And I also love how smooth the Clover hooks are. Just really, really nice to work with. So I've worked with it so many times, so it's pretty familiar for me. And if you've never had a Clover hook, it's definitely a lot different than the other metal hooks that I've tried. So I definitely enjoy working with it a lot more. It's a lot more smooth on the hook. I decided to just finish out the row with the Clover hook so that you can see how it looks, and I've been very comfortable with this hook for such a long time, so I always enjoy working with it. Now we're going to try the Frills hook next, and I'm just going to insert my hook, and again, it's so weird to not have a thumb rest. I'm going to chain 2, turn my work, and one of the things I noticed right off the bat is that even though it looks like it would be more smooth, it somehow has more drag than my Clover hooks. So it's a little bit harder to have the yarn slide. The yarn just doesn't want to slide as nice. Also, as you can see, I slowly work my hand up. So instead of having my hand right here, I'm working up here pretty quick to be able to reach the tip of my work. I also, as you notice, I just slid out, and that to me is the main difference with having the tapered. When it is more tapered, it's a lot easier for the yarn to get stuck at the hook instead of just slide right through. So, not terrible, but a lot more frustrating for me to work with, and it's more heavy, which I just prefer not to have that. And I just feel like I'm struggling a lot more with it. Is it a terrible hook? Definitely not. Is it as enjoyable as the Clover? Definitely not, in my opinion. All right, now we're gonna try the Make and Do Crew hook. And I'm going to just go ahead and chain 2. And this is a 7mm hook, so it's a little bit bigger. I like how smooth it is. It is quite smooth. So I enjoy that. I also love the pointier tip. It's just very easy to get into the stitches. And I love the thumb rest. I always, as you know, will scoot up my hand, but I do love having the thumb rest so much. It definitely helps. It always takes me a little bit of adjustment to get used to this, a little bit more Susan Bates style. So having not a little bit less tapered, but I appreciate that it doesn't feel as hard to keep the hook on the yarn on the hook as the frills hook. So I definitely like that better. And the colors are so beautiful of this hook. I've been crocheting with it for not very long, but long enough to know that I really enjoy working with it. I definitely think I would love to get the 10mm hook size because I use the 10mm hook size so much, and so love it. And this is just so pretty. So I definitely enjoy working with it. It's a little bit different than the Clover, being not as tapered as the main difference, and significantly longer, which I actually do like having it a little bit longer. I always move my thumb up a little bit when the hook length is longer, but still really enjoy working with it. And I think this will be now my 7mm hook that I use instead of my Clover. I hope this video was helpful and gave you some insights into this hook, as well as just hook designs in general. And if you're at all interested in purchasing this Make and Do Crew hook, make sure to check the link in the description box down below, and I'll put the link to where you can purchase the hook. Also, thank you to Make and Do Crew for sending me this hook. It was so fun to experiment with, and I can't wait to keep crocheting with it. It's been such a fun hook to use. And so this video is not sponsored by them, but thank you to them for sending me this hook. It's been so fun to use, so I'm excited to keep crocheting with it and hopefully get some more hook sizes from them soon. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!